I never thought owning a truck would stir up such drama, but when you live in a neighborhood with a homeowners association, you learn quickly that nothing is ever just simple. I moved into the neighborhood 4 years ago. It's a quiet suburban area, tree-lined streets, neatly trimmed hedges, and more rules than a military handbook. Honestly, I liked the order. I figured the HOA fees went toward keeping the place nice, and it was worth it. That was until my truck became a problem. Let me back up. I'm a contractor. I run a small business doing home renovations, repairs, that sort of thing. My Ford F-250 is more than just a vehicle. It's my livelihood. It's got tool racks, a locked storage box in the bed, and my business logo on the doors. It's not rusty or beat up. In fact, it's cleaner than half the sedans in the neighborhood. I wash it every Sunday, wax it monthly. It's my pride. Then, out of nowhere, I get a letter from the HOA. A violation notice. Your vehicle is classified as a commercial vehicle and is not permitted to be parked in the driveway overnight per HOA guidelines. Please remove the vehicle within 7 days to avoid further penalties. If you like this story, kindly subscribe, like, and share this story. Thanks for watching. I thought it was a mistake. So I went down to the HOA office with the letter in hand. Hi, I got this notice about my truck. Oh yes, the woman behind the desk interrupted. We've had a complaint. A complaint? I asked. From who? She gave me a tight smile. That's confidential. I looked at her like she'd grown a second head. My truck's been here for 4 years. No one's said a word. Well, the board recently decided to begin enforcing the commercial vehicle restriction. Your truck has signage and equipment. That qualifies. You realize I live here, right? It's my only vehicle. Where exactly am I supposed to park it? She didn't flinch. In your garage or off-site? I almost laughed. My garage has been converted into a small workshop. There's no way that beast would fit in there anyway. I tried reasoning with them, explaining that it wasn't an eyesore, that I wasn't running a business out of my home, just parking my truck. But all I got were blank stares and quotes from the HOA handbook. So, I parked my truck in the driveway like I always had and waited. Exactly a week later, I got a second notice. This one came with a fine, $150, and a warning that continued violations would lead to escalating penalties and possible legal action. Now I was pissed. I read the HOA handbook cover to cover. Sure enough, there was a clause about commercial vehicles, but it was vague. No mention of signage specifically. Just vehicles primarily used for commercial purposes. That could include anyone who drives a company car home, technically. I took photos of other vehicles around the neighborhood. Guess what I found? 3 vans with plumbing company decals, 2 SUVs with magnetic signs for real estate businesses, and 1 landscaping trailer that sat in a driveway 2 streets over, full of mowers and weed whackers. None of them had violation notices. I printed the photos and sent them, along with a letter, to the HOA board demanding an explanation for the selective enforcement. No response. That's when I decided it was time to push back, not just for me, but for everyone else who was tired of the arbitrary rules. I started with a petition, went door to door after work, asking if anyone else had received similar complaints. Turns out, I wasn't alone. One guy had been told to repaint his mailbox because the color wasn't harmonious. Another woman got fined for having a garden gnome in her front yard. By the end of the week, I had 62 signatures demanding a town hall meeting and clarification on the HOA's enforcement policies. When the board finally scheduled the meeting, I showed up early, documents in hand, petition copies ready, and a slideshow of the inconsistencies I'd found. Neighbors trickled in, many of them frustrated but unsure how to act. The board president, a retiree named Gerald, opened with the usual dry agenda. When they finally reached community concerns, I stood up. My name's Mike Harper, 42, Oak Ridge Lane. I've got a question about the HOA's vehicle policy. Gerald adjusted his glasses. You received a violation notice, correct? Yes. For my truck. A truck that's been parked in my driveway for 4 years without incident. Well, as you know, commercial vehicles are prohibited. Except, I interrupted, the rule doesn't specify what qualifies. And enforcement has been anything but consistent. I have photos here of at least 6 other vehicles that meet your definition. I clicked through slides, plumber vans, the real estate SUVs, the landscaping trailer. Gerald frowned. Those may have been missed. So why am I being targeted? The room got quiet. One woman stood up. They cited me for having a raised flower bed. Said it wasn't pre-approved. Another man chimed in. They fined me for leaving my trash bin out past 7 a.m. People began murmuring, sharing their stories, and suddenly, the board was on the defensive. Gerald cleared his throat. We'll review the policies. We're only trying to maintain standards. I held up the petition. 62 homeowners disagree with how the rules are being enforced. We're calling for a full policy review, starting with vehicle restrictions. The murmurs turned into applause. Under the HOA bylaws, if more than 30% of homeowners sign a petition, the board is required to hold a vote on any proposed policy change. Cornered, they agreed. Over the next month, I worked with a few neighbors to draft a revised vehicle policy, one that allowed commercial vehicles as long as they were in good condition and didn't block sidewalks or protrude into the street. We also added language demanding equal enforcement and the establishment of an oversight committee made up of residents, not just board members. The vote passed, overwhelmingly. But the story doesn't end there. Gerald and 2 other board members tried to block the implementation, citing legal concerns. So we dug deeper. One of my neighbors, a retired attorney, started looking into the HOA's finances and uncovered something interesting. Thousands of dollars spent on consulting fees, with no clear records of who the consultants were. When we pressed further, Gerald resigned. So did the treasurer. A special election was held, and wouldn't you know it, I was voted onto the board. Not because I wanted to run things, but because people were sick of the nonsense and wanted someone who'd actually listen. First order of business? Officially repeal the unfair commercial vehicle rule. Second, enact a transparency policy that required the board to publish all meeting minutes and budget items. And third, create an appeals committee so no one had to go through what I did without a fair hearing. Now, my truck sits in my driveway, right where it belongs. But more importantly, the neighborhood feels like a community again. People talk to each other now. There's less fear of stepping out of line, more understanding, more cooperation. All because one HOA tried to push the wrong guy too far. They thought they could bully me into silence. Instead, they sparked a movement. Let that be a lesson. When the rules are unfair, don't just back down. Stand up. Organize. Fight back. And maybe, just maybe, park your truck proudly in the driveway while you do it.